Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to a conversation with Metrolinx about accessibility. This conversation is being held as part of Metrolinx's annual accessibility consultation. My name is Joseph Thornley. I'm the CEO of 76 Engage, Metrolinx's public engagement partner for online consultation, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator for this evening's event. As moderator, I'll work to keep the event on time, ensure your questions are answered as best as possible, and make sure as many questions are answered as possible. Now, one important note. We have ASL interpretation tonight. You should be seeing that on the screen, and you should also see a closed caption icon at the bottom of your screen, so you can turn on the closed captioning if you'd like, or also use the American Sign Language interpretation that we have. As we begin tonight's session, let's recognize that Metrolinx operates on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers and immigrants in the generation or generations past. Metrolinx declares its commitment to build meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge we have a responsibility to recognize and value the rights of Indigenous peoples and conduct business in a manner that is built on the foundation of trust, respect, and collaboration. We acknowledge the historic and continued impacts of colonialization, that many broken promises and treaties, and the need to work towards reconciliation with the original caretakers of this land, today and for the future generations. As I said, our topic tonight is accessibility. In addition to this event, Metrolinx has posted materials on the site, and you can get to those by clicking on the green button at the top of the page that says Annual Accessibility Public Consultation. You'll find lots of information about accessibility at Metrolinx, plus opportunities after the event is over to submit comments and to ask questions. So please do take advantage of that afterwards. This is not meant to be the entire process during this hour. It is meant to be part of the process. Now, we've scheduled this session to last, I just said an hour. Actually, we've scheduled it to last 1.5 hours. We'll start with a brief presentation, and then we'll take as many questions as possible. At the beginning of the questions, we'll start with some of the questions that have been submitted in writing in advance of tonight's meeting. Then we'll go to the Zoom room for anyone who wants to ask their question live out loud. So if you'd like to do that, you can simply scroll down below the video button to the yellow Join Zoom button, and you can click on that and go over to the Zoom room where Caitlin Doherty is waiting for you, and at the appropriate time, she will let you unmute your microphone and you can ask a question. Again, if you've just joined the event, we have both American Sign Language and closed captioning. You can turn on the closed captioning by clicking on the CC at the bottom of the video screen. I'd now like to introduce our panel of Metrolinx staff who will be delivering the presentation and answering your questions. Joanna Contreras is the advisor of Universal Design. Welcome, Joanna. Marcela Correa Villalada is the Senior Advisor of Accessibility at Presto. Gunta Mackers is the Vice President of Design. Jan Richards is the Manager of Customer Experience Strategy at Presto. And Jeff Short is the Senior Advisor for Universal Design. Welcome to all of you. I believe, Gunta, that you are going to start our presentation.
Yes, thank you. So on behalf of Metrolinx and the team, we really offer a warm welcome to everyone participating this evening and a sincere thank you for giving your time and feedback this evening. Tonight it will help Metrolinx to better understand the challenges as well as the things that are going well and improving. Some of the improvements we've been implementing will be evident as the numerous projects underway come to completion, and we will need your patience till they become reality. but know that we are listening. Slide 4. So the purpose of our virtual open house this evening has 3 facets. The first is to provide an update on accessibility achievements. The second is to share information on key planned initiatives over the coming year. And most importantly, number 3, to seek feedback to ensure that our services and projects reflect your needs. This provides you with an opportunity for input into our accessibility planning efforts. Next slide, please. Our focus for this evening is on 7 areas. The first being universal design overall at Metrolinx. And then the next are the 5 modes of transit. So GO, rail and bus, subway, LRT or light rail transit, and the bus rapid transit. Additionally, we will be looking at Presto, as well as the work on the regional specialized transit coordination. Next slide, please. How will we use your input? Your input will be considered during the preparation of the accessibility status report that we prepare, in planning and policy processes, and in design through updates to the Metrolinx design standards and throughout our reviews. Movement of our services to all of our customers. Next slide, please. We would like to talk about our accessibility commitment. Metrolinx is truly committed to ensuring that its services and operations are accessible to all customers and employees in accordance with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or the AODA, and exceed these where and when possible. We also work with partners in the region to plan and build an integrated accessible transportation system. We work diligently to remove barriers to access, avoid creating new barriers, and continue to expand our knowledge to bring best practice that enhances accessibility for everyone. Next slide, please. At Metrolinx, universal design represents the practice of design to accommodate and promote the widest variety and number of customers along the same path of travel wherever possible. We take this commitment seriously, and you have a team here today that strives for that every single day. In 2019, Metrolinx completed and adopted its first universal design standard. The development of the standard included robust and inclusive consultation with people with lived experience of disability as a key to assessing, refining, and sometimes redefining our design requirements. The standard is a living document, and it continues to evolve to incorporate lessons learned and updates, and will continue to evolve over time. The goal is to improve it with every update. The Universal Design team reviews this document regularly to reflect changes in legislation, technological advancement, and emerging best practices, as well as to reflect corporate direction and business needs. Let's have a productive meeting this evening, and with that, I will pass the baton to Jeff Short.
Thank you, Gunta. I also wanted to, before I continue with the content and the presentation, also just wanted to check with the sign language interpreters to see when if they wanted to do a handover at some point before we continue on for the content.
We've still got about 5 minutes left.
Thank you. All right, so we're on to slide 10 of the presentation. And so we just wanted to talk a bit about some of the recent achievements we've made with the Go Rail services, just to give you a sense of what we've been working on over the past year, and in some cases over the past years. So firstly, we have opened a new station in the Richmond Hill Aurora area called Bloomington Go Station. It opened to the public in June of 2021. Some of the key accessibility features include elevators, platform edge tactile attention indicators, accessible washrooms, and a weather-protected bus loop. In downtown Toronto, for those who are familiar with Union Station and all the work that's going on there, we reopened the Bay Concourse to the public in July of 2021. So it significantly increased the capacity of Union Station for customers. In fact, we've tripled the amount of concourse space at Union Station since the renovations began. Also wanted to mention about an expansion to the GO Rail network out to the London area. So that's on the Kitchener GO Rail corridor. That was extended to London with GO trains now serving existing Via Rail stations in the towns of St. Mary's, Stratford, and the City of London. Raised mini platforms were built on the Via platforms to ensure that we can provide step-free access to the GO trains at those stations. Next slide, please. Just a few more examples of some things that are both completed and work that is ongoing and underway. So we have continuous improvements going on at our existing GO Rail stations with a few examples shown on the screen. For example, we've successfully completed accessibility retrofits in 2021 for features such as tactile attention indicators along platform edges at stations such as Bradford, Centennial, Guelph, Mountjoy, Scarborough, Stouffville, and Whitby. And we've also made elevator upgrades at Burlington, Pickering, Streetsville, and Whitby GO stations. For those who are accustomed to using the elevators in our stations, you may realize that over time, the elevators, because they've been around for a long time, in some cases they may have some challenges in terms of the usability, or they might go out of service a bit more often. So there are some major upgrades that we are doing to ensure that they can be much more reliable. On to the next slide. And so just a couple of examples of some things that are happening that are underway on the GO Rail side. So there's ongoing construction at a new Mount Dennis GO station, which will be on the Kitchener line in the northwest part of Toronto. So this would be a new accessible transit hub that will connect the future two-way all-day GO service along the Kitchener line to the airport via Up Express. It will also provide connections into the Eglinton Crosstown light rail transit project that's being built right now. And of course, we'll provide connections to the TTC bus network. It will include elevators and a pickup and drop-off area, among other customer amenities. On to the next slide, we're going to be talking about some of the improvements to the customer experience for our bus services. So in, I guess, a little over, it's about a year and a bit ago now, so it's been a while, we opened the new Kipling bus terminal for both GO Transit and MyWay bus services in the west end of Toronto. So that opened in January of 2021. So it now provides a barrier-free route connecting to the GO train platform at Kipling GO Station via a new pedestrian bridge. And there's two side-by-side elevators that are provided at each end of the pedestrian bridge to provide barrier-free access between the new bus terminal and the train platform. The project also added a new mini platform or accessible boarding area for the train platform to ensure that there's step-free boarding to the trains, GO trains. And new accessible tunnels provide an easier transfer between the new bus terminal and the existing TTC subway station, which is Kipling Station. It's at the westernmost terminus of the existing Line 2 for the TTC subway network. On the next slide, we have slide 14, talking about some items that or some areas where we've made achievements in terms of completed and underway initiatives. So Metrolinx continues to work with municipalities to convert on-street municipal bus stops to accommodate all GO buses. By the end of 2021, the plan was to upgrade an additional 119 stops to be accessible. This content was developed before the end of 2021, which is why the content is written as such. And so we had upgraded approximately 119 stops by the end of 2021 over the course of the year. And it involves improvements to existing stops to accommodate bus lifts and ramps. So that's the main thing here I wanted to emphasize, is because our Go Bus fleet operates different types, we operate different types of buses. Our high floor lift equipped buses require a larger landing area for those lifts to be deployed. And this is the reason why there's additional upgrades that need to be made, even if the bus stop was accessible to municipal buses before. And I should be pointing out that we have some photos on the screen. On the right side of this slide, we have a photo of a stop that was upgraded in, I believe, the Bradford West Gwillimbury area. So essentially, the bus pad was widened to ensure that we can accommodate all Go Bus types and provide barrier-free boarding to the buses. We continue to, on the bus fleet side, we continue to add low-floor double-decker buses to our bus fleet. And so these buses are gradually replacing the older lift-equipped buses, which I was referring to. And between approximately 2018 and 2021, our fleet shifted from about half to almost 2/3 of the fleet being low-floor buses. Again, all of the Go buses provide step-free boarding. The key difference being that the older lift-equipped buses operate a bit differently than the newer double-decker low-floor buses. And on the right side of the screen, we have a photo of one of the newer double-decker buses at a stop in Mississauga. Next slide, please. So now we're going to be moving on to some of the new subway projects. So for those who may not be aware, Metrolinx has now responsibility for planning and design of the 4 new subway projects. So the existing subway network remains the responsibility of the TDC, but Metrolinx is responsible for planning and design for new subway projects that are being rolled out. So there's new subway lines and extensions being planned. For example, the Eglinton Crosstown West extension, which will go from the Mount Dennis area in the west end of Toronto out to a new station at Renforth, which will be almost directly south of Pearson International Airport, and it will provide connections into the existing Mississauga Transitway bus rapid transit service, so providing some important regional connections. The Ontario line, which will be a new subway network, subway line that will provide connections into downtown Toronto, going from the exhibition area in just west of Toronto, west of downtown Toronto, through the downtown Toronto area, and then eventually with the northeastern terminus being in the Science Centre area, which is around Don Mills and Eglinton. The Scarborough subway extension, so extending the existing Line 2 subway network northeast in Scarborough. And lastly, the Yonge North subway extension, so extending the existing Line 1 of the TDC subway network beyond Finch up into the Richmond Hill area. The station design will meet the Metrolinx Universal Design Standard and will incorporate lessons learned from other projects. New design standards for subway projects have also been developed, which address station and vehicle accessibility features. Moving on to the next slide, just wanted to talk a bit about some of the design principles. So there's 6 design principles that are overarching values informing and guiding the development of the Metrolinx design standards, including the subways design standard. Integrate the physical, digital, and human aspects of the end-to-end customer journey. So those are seamless, intuitive, inclusive, safe, reliable, and thoughtful. For Ontario Line stations in particular, Metrolinx established the following core design principles: passenger-focused design, system reliability, efficiency and safety, public realm benefits and placemaking, context integration, and intuitive wayfinding. And on the right side of the screen, we have a conceptual map of the Ontario Line showing the approximate locations of the stations on the Ontario Line. We are happy to provide additional information to anyone who's interested, they can reach out to us with for further information on this and other projects. On to the next slide, just some additional content about the new subway projects. So the subway stations will provide a positive and accessible customer experience that is integrated, convenient, and safe for customers accessing them, using various modes and services, such as specialized transit. Station designs will be inherently accessible to people with diverse abilities, simple and intuitive to use, conveying perceptual information, minimizing hazards, and designed with appropriate size and space to be inclusive for all customers. And public input, of course, is vital to these subway projects. And we encourage you to visit the subway section of the Metrolinx Engage website to learn more about each of the projects. And on the screen, we have, again, some conceptual maps for the Scarborough subway extension and the Yonge North subway extension. And again, there's more information about each of these projects on Metrolinx Engage. And please do feel free to reach out anytime after the meeting to find out more. On to the next slide, we're going to be talking about light rail transit. So there's some light rail transit projects that are being planned for in Toronto and Peel, which we wanted to talk a bit about right now. So underway, we have construction on the Eglinton Crosstown Light Rail Transit project. And it's as some are aware, it's well underway, and stations or stops are well under construction and some are nearing completion. Vehicle testing continues to take place along the corridor. And on the screen, we have an image of one of the light rail vehicles being tested along the eastern section of the Eglinton Crosstown Light Rail Transit line. Yeah, so that testing continues to happen. Also in Toronto, we are almost complete the design for the Finch West LRT project, with construction now well underway. So this line will provide a new light rail transit line in the northwest part of Toronto. That will start at the Finch West station on the Line 2 of the existing subway network, and will head west eventually, with its westernmost terminus being at Humber College. So that will provide some, again, some important connections into other services from there. Out in Peel, we have design for the Huron-Ontario Light Rail Transit line in Mississauga and Southern Brampton. And this continues, and construction is also underway on some of the early works for that project. And lastly, planning and design for the Hamilton Light Rail Transit project is underway as well. And we have a conceptual render of, on the screen in the bottom right corner, of the Port Credit Light Rail Transit station, which is at the southernmost point of the Huron-Ontario LRT line. The next slide, just talking a bit more about accessibility features and standards that apply to these light rail transit projects. So the stations and stops are informed by accessible and universal design best practices for transit that are informed by standards such as the Canadian Standards Association Standard B651, which is the accessible design for the built environment, as well as community consultation. The key accessibility features for all LRT projects include tactile guidance tiles in stations and at center platform stops. So these are in addition to the platform edge tactile attention tiles. So these provide guidance to individuals who use white canes and others to navigate along transit platforms. Enhanced intercoms with hearing induction loops that are accessible for customers who are hard of hearing will be provided at all intercoms. And visual displays and input devices to support text communication for the benefit of persons who are deaf and nonverbal will be provided at key locations. There will be elevator redundancy, for example, 2 side-by-side elevators at most interchange and terminal LRT stations. Audible and visual next stop announcements will be provided on vehicles, and all-door boarding will also be provided on vehicles. So the next section of the presentation is we're going to highlight a couple of bus rapid transit projects. So this is on to slide 20. So we are currently planning for the proposed Durham Scarborough bus rapid transit project. This project would bring approximately 36 kilometers of dedicated transit infrastructure that would connect downtown Oshawa, Whitby, Ajax, Pickering, and Scarborough. This project would build on the existing Pulse service, that's the existing bus rapid transit service in Durham, and would provide more dedicated transit infrastructure along Highway 2 and Ellesmere Road to connect to the Scarborough Centre. Planning is being undertaken by Metrolinx in collaboration with municipalities in support of potential future municipal project implementation. And we have a conceptual render on the screen of a stop, an on-street stop on the Durham Scarborough BRT corridor. So this is, again, very conceptual, but it does show some of the key features. There would be a canopy for weather protection, this being an on-street, middle of the street stop, has the tactile attention indicators along the platform edge, and seating, among other amenities. On to the next slide, highlighting another BRT project that is being planned. So out in the west end of the region now, there's planning for the proposed Dundas bus rapid transit corridor that's underway. So the purpose of the planning work is to evaluate the proposed transit corridor along a 48-kilometer stretch of Dundas Street from Highway 6 in the city of Hamilton through to the Kipling Transit Hub in the city of Toronto. So this would link Etobicoke, this would also link Etobicoke and Mississauga city centres. More than 20 of the 48 kilometers of the BRT line would operate in bus lanes or in a dedicated right-of-way, separate from other traffic, which will allow for faster and more reliable transit connections. So the slide also includes a conceptual render of a BRT stop for the Dundas BRT project. All right, so I'm actually going to pass it over to my colleague Marcella, who's going to take us through some slides about improvements for the Presto service. Over to you, Marcella.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with what we have with the Presto devices. So the new Presto devices, which have been actually out for about a year now, include high contrast labels, raised symbols, raised indicators for where to tap. So for the Presto cards, we have a circle, and for barcode tickets, a rectangle. The off-board station devices actually include braille labels as well as an audio mode that can be activated when you plug in headphones, and it includes a volume button to control the volume of the audio mode. On the screen, you can see three pictures. Two pictures are of the off-board devices. So one shows the full device with the pedestal and the face of the device at the top with a green sunshade. And then a close-up of the off-board device of the main area of the device, which includes the screen, the audio mode, and the headphone jack to the right of the screen, as well as the mode button to the left. And at the bottom half of that device is the raised circle for the Presto card reader, as well as the barcode reader right below it. The onboard device is a smaller device, which includes the main screen. Below the screen is the barcode reader, and below the barcode reader is the Presto card reader, as well with the raised rectangle and the raised circle for those readers. Next slide, please. Continuing with the Presto devices, they are easy to use when sitting or standing. The audio tones for accepted and decline cards are loud and clear. We also have bright, colorful displays that indicate the transit agency with the name and the logo. The fare balance and transfer validity are shown on the acceptance screens. And the reasons for decline for payment are also included on the screens. So for instance, if your card needs to be activated or if you need to reload funds. On App Express, currently, the contactless payment is available. So you can pay with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or your mobile wallet. On the right hand of the screen, we have a few pictures indicating one, the idle screen of the Go devices. So that's the top left picture, we can see the Go logo, and then it says Tap Card below on text on both English and French. Below that screen, we have an example of an accepted screen that shows the fare paid, the balance, and the transfer window. On the right side, we have an example of the station device and an individual on a wheelchair parked next to it to highlight how it is easy to use when from a seated position as well. And we have the logos from the contactless payments available at App Express. Next slide, please. Regarding the Presto website, the Presto website conforms with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0 level AA. Accessibility features include support access with keyboard and screen readers, dynamic resizing, and we also have a web chat where you can connect with us directly. On YouTube, on our YouTube channel, we have new Presto how-to videos that have complete step-by-step guide in the description section. Some of these videos include loading on the Presto app, setting up a default trip, setting up auto load, and what to do when you lost or your card is stolen. Some changes on key policy or improvements include removal of overdraft fee and reducing the minimum load to 5 cents in person and on the app or website. On the two pictures on the screen, the top picture is a screenshot of our new website design, and the bottom picture is a screenshot from one of our how-to videos, in this case, set go default trip. Next slide, please. The mobile app leverages the numerous accessibility features built in modern smartphones. So this means that you can use the Presto app with the screen reader, screen magnifiers, and ability switch support from smartphones. The Presto Mobile App has received several improvements. So you can now load and query a card via your phone's built-in NFC feature. You can also see the last time you tap, your transfer window, current balance in real time. You can set the Go default trip from the app, and you can manage your Presto card as well as manage contactless credit cards used for fare payment in App Express. And the two pictures on the screen show screenshots from the Presto app. Next slide, please. And lastly, the Presto eTickets app. So this is a different app from the Presto app. The Presto eTickets app is designed and tested with users for accessibility. Last year, it was available on Hamilton Street Rail as well as Durham Region Transit, and we have more agencies joining in. This app allows you to buy and store e-tickets in the app and activate them before you board. It is ideal for occasional riders and visitors and allows for multiple tickets to be activated at once for a group. The pictures on the screen are a few screenshots from the app. One shows you how to select the transit agency you are using, and the picture on the right, far right, shows you the examples of how to purchase a ticket. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. So we're, I think, getting down to the last few slides, and then we'll get to the heart of the meeting, which is to have a conversation and explore some of the questions and comments that people have submitted in advance, as well as questions that people may have during the meeting. So just on the last few slides, so this one is about regional specialized transit coordination. So Metrolinx is working together with municipal transit partners from across the Greater Golden Horseshoe to help ensure a seamless cross-boundary travel experience, including opportunities to better coordinate specialized and conventional transit. So we've been working with these municipal transit agencies for many years now, and quite frequently during COVID to look at ways to ensure coordination and a more, I guess, a better customer experience to in terms of more consistency between the services as adjustments that were made as a result of the COVID pandemic. Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, is in place between the various specialized transit agencies in the Greater Toronto Hamilton area to help facilitate cross-boundary travel. So this means that for customers who use mobility aids and who are registered in good standing with a specialized transit agency in the GTHA, in the municipality where they live, they're now automatically eligible for specialized transit services with the other transit agencies in the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. And on the slide, we have information about where you can find further information about cross-boundary travel for specialized transit, and this is on the Metrolinx website. For those who may not have access to this information or may not be seeing the information on the screen, the information is also included in the Metrolinx Engage site, so you can access the link from there. So it's for our accessibility consultation. You can find the link there as well. On to the next slide, please. So as I was mentioning, due to COVID-19, the main focus in over the past couple of years has been to discuss how specialized transit services and procedures will be modified to ensure that both customers and staff are kept safe and healthy. So some examples of some of the topics that we've discussed as a specialized transit working group in response to COVID-19 include things like exploring the practicality of gradually increasing the number of customers in each specialized transit vehicle. For those who are specialized transit customers, you may have noticed that for most services in our region, vehicle capacity was temporarily reduced due to COVID restrictions to ensure that customers can be kept safe and healthy while they travel on specialized transit. Vaccination policies for staff and health screening questions for customers. So through these regular discussions amongst the specialized transit working group staff, it allows the opportunity for the specialized transit agencies to ensure there was better coordination and more consistency across the region in terms of how these various policies and procedures were being rolled out. There's been close collaboration between the agencies, which has helped to ensure more consistent customer experience. And on the slide, we have a couple of photos. On the top right, we have a photo of various types of vehicles that are used by York Region Transit Mobility on Request service. So at YRT, they use a family of services approach to that service, and so it allows for different types of vehicles can be used depending on a customer's needs, and allows for them to deliver the service as effectively as possible for customers. Not all specialized transit customers require a step-free vehicle. In some cases, it might be a person who has vision loss, who lives in an area that is not well served by local transit. So they may perhaps use a sedan, whereas a person in a mobility age may require a bus or accessible taxi. So they have a variety of different types of vehicles that are used to accommodate a wide range of customers and to deliver the service as effectively as possible. And in the bottom right corner of the screen, we have a photo of a specialized transit transfer point or transfer location. I believe this is between Oakville and Burlington, out in the Halton area. And so there's some signage to identify that this is a designated transfer point. And that helps to ensure that, and that there is coordination between the agencies to provide as coordinated and seamless a service as possible. So when a customer is traveling across municipal boundaries by specialized transit, that there's good communication between the agencies to reduce the wait times for customers as they're transferring between services. On the next slide, please. So some may be aware on the call that we have an accessibility advisory committee at Metrolinx, and they provide input on a wide range of initiatives at Metrolinx, such as design standards. So they provided input into the Metrolinx Universal Design Standard, which we talked about earlier in this presentation. New Presto offerings. So we have sought an input from our Accessibility Advisory Committee, as well as others from outside the committee, into new offerings, whether it be on the interface on the device, scripts for the audio that's provided in some devices, and amongst other things. So it's been really helpful to get input from customers as those new offerings are being developed. And then accessibility-related policies and procedures. So the AAC is also represented on the Metrolinx Design Review Panel, providing recommendations on universal design and accessibility early in the design process or selected Metrolinx capital projects and for selected projects. And committee members come from across our service area. We want to ensure that we're getting input from people from various parts of the region, and we try to ensure that there's a broad range of wide range of users that are part of the advisory committee. I believe we have one more slide. So just, I believe this is the last slide, just indicating how you can get involved in testing and other consultation opportunities. So if you're interested in receiving invites for other accessibility consultation events or opportunities, or you'd like to find out how to apply to our Accessibility Advisory Committee, you can email us at accessibility@metrolinx.com or by calling us at 416-525-2493. So I believe that's the last slide. So I think at this point I will be turning it back to Joseph.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you to all the panelists. That was a lot of information, very complete information. We have a little under 50 minutes for questions. So we're going to start out with written questions. And for those people who would like to ask their questions live, you can click on the yellow Join Zoom button, and that will take you into a Zoom room where Caitlin Doherty is waiting for you. And when we go over there, she will unmute your microphone, and you'll be able to ask your question. But let's start out here with some written questions. And I just want to say before asking the first question that if you have been here previously looking at the material, you may notice that one of the questions is no longer there. And that was because there was personally identifiable information, telephone number, email address, name. And we try not to have that kind of thing exposed publicly, but I should let everybody know that Jeff Short has been in touch with the person who submitted that question, and so we are not ignoring anyone. We just didn't want the personal identifiable information revealed to the general public. So let's start off with the first question, which is on the topic of safety and security for disabled LGBTQIA+ passengers. And the questioner says, riding GO Transit can be stressful for those of us with disabilities, and even more so if you are also a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. Being transgender on top of being disabled adds even more stress and danger to our travels. Something that may seem innocent, like accidentally misgendering someone, can be absolutely devastating to a person who is transgender. Proper terminology is always important, as hearing something inappropriate can really hurt someone who is already dealing with fear, stress, and feeling vulnerable. Being misgendered and assaulted in public washrooms is an ever-present fear. And not being allowed to use the washroom that corresponds to your gender identity can have a long-lasting and extremely demoralizing effect on that person. And disabled washrooms aren't always available, particularly in an emergency. We all want to be treated with dignity and respect, but for some people that is not something that is easily obtained. Discrimination is cumulative, and those with disabilities who are also queer face more discrimination and harassment than others. And if you are also a person of color, there's even more to deal with. So, 2 questions. What is GO Transit doing to make sure we can ride safely without worrying about being misgendered or harassed by staff or other passengers, particularly when it comes to using public washrooms on trains and in stations, or when simply engaging with staff or just trying to enjoy our ride. So what are you doing about that? And a second question, more specifically, do staff members receive sensitivity training and know not to use gender-specific terms or assume someone's gender identity? I wonder if you could tackle those two questions, please.
Okay. So it's Jeff Short here. So I think I can maybe start out, and I may ask others of my colleagues to add in any other details they'd like to share as well. So firstly, we very much want to ensure that the services that we provide at Metrolinx, we want to ensure that customers feel as safe as comfortable as possible as they're traveling on our services. We want to provide an inclusive space and environment, and we certainly do not want to anybody to feel that their safety, their dignity is at risk at any time. Metrolinx offers anti-bias training to staff, which covers a wide range of topics, and I think there's some excellent points in here, and I think I do want to mention that Metrolinx within the past few months has hired a chief inclusion officer, and I think that chief inclusion officer is going to help to advance the conversation at Metrolinx to ensure that all staff training is, covers a wide range of topics and is addressing the needs of the broadest possible range of customers. So, looking forward to seeing advancements on that side. When it comes to washrooms in our services, on our trains, as many are aware, we do have washrooms on our trains. Those are all gender washrooms, so they're usable by all customers. In our stations, there are a variety of stations across our network, and in some cases we do have perhaps gendered washrooms only. In a lot of our newer stations, we do provide gendered male and female washrooms as well as universal washrooms. And so I think as we progress, we'll have a wider range of options available to customers in our stations. And maybe, I'm not sure if any of my colleagues wanted to add in anything. I've probably missed a few of the points that were raised here.
Anybody on the panel want to add to that?
Sure. This is Joanna from Presto. We want to emphasize that we are all working towards a very inclusive environment for everyone to be freely being able to ride our system with safety. And it's important to understand that even though we provide gender identified washrooms, washrooms are welcome and to be used by customers, and they can choose the gender that they identify with. There is no social policy or procedure at Metrolinx that will prevent a customer from using a washroom that aligns with their gender.
That's very helpful, Joanna. And I wonder if someone on the panel, just one other thing, if I were a member of the public and I felt disrespected or discriminated against as a result of the facilities or my treatment, how could I go about drawing this to the attention of Metrolinx's management? Is there an easy route for me as a member of the public to let my concerns be known to you?
Yeah, so it's Jeff here again. I think what I would recommend for customers is by starting out to reach out to our contact center. So we have staff there that can log any customer comments that are received, and that they can would request details from the customer to better understand the interactions they've had with staff. And they can look into it, investigate, and by receiving details from the customer in terms of maybe where an incident might occur, where they may feel like they have not received the type of service that they're entitled to, and maybe they haven't their dignity hasn't been respected. That our staff would request the information from the customer so they can look into the incident, and again, all this information is logged by our staff, and where there's opportunities for staff to go undergo refresher training, amongst other things, then the management would work with the staff person to look at perhaps some staff refresher training to ensure that customers will have the best possible experience, and we certainly don't want those types of situations to occur going forward.
Thank you for that. And I know I should know this, but how could I reach the contact center?
So there's information on the Go Transit website, and for those who are using Up Express, there would be information there as well. And so if you would go to, I believe, the Contact Us section of the Go Transit website, then there's an opportunity to interact with staff in various formats, whether it be by submitting questions through the website or calling in. There's some different formats to engage with staff.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, I just want to remind people that if you want to ask your question live, the Zoom room is open, and you can go there and raise your hand, and Caitlin Doherty will recognize you at the appropriate time. We know there's at least one of our written questions where the questioner has gone over to the Zoom room to ask the question live, so that is there. On the written questions, I'd like to turn the topic to cognitive and developmental disabilities access. A few questions. I'm going to go through them one at a time to give you a chance to respond specifically to each one. So the first question is, the TTC has specific training groups that teach individuals how to use the TTC in person. Is this something implemented within the Go Train, Go Bus system?
So it's Jeff here. I can start off with that one. So I believe this is in reference to travel training that the TTC and some other agencies offer. So Metrolinx doesn't currently deliver a travel training type program, but there have been different programs that have been implemented. For example, in Hamilton, one example I can bring up, and we worked with some not-for-profit agencies there to support the development of expanding their travel training program, in which they were developing new content for their travel training program for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to more independently use transit. It started out with using local transit in Hamilton, and there was a desire amongst the consumers to want to learn how to use the Go Transit bus and rail network. So we worked with them to develop new content. And we've had some great feedback that individuals who have participated in the travel training have successfully traveled to other parts of the region, down to Niagara and into Toronto and so on. So there's been some great experiences there. There are, again, I think primarily through other agencies, just a couple of examples. This is perhaps more for individuals with vision loss, but there are some, there's training that takes place in which an individual with vision loss would receive orientation and mobility training for specific locations. So it would allow them to navigate more independently on a sort of a station by station basis. So I think this is primarily delivered through other agencies, but we support in some cases by providing input into content being delivered, being developed and delivered, and in other cases just more generally supporting other programs that exist to ensure that customers with a variety of disabilities can use our services more independently.
Okay, thank you. And a quick follow-up, similar to the last one. If I felt that I could benefit from that type of training, that type of service. Is there a place you could recommend to me that I could go to get information on how to access it?
Yeah, I mean, I think without going into too much details here, there's certainly for anybody who is interested, they can reach out to us at Metrolinx through the accessibility at metrolinx.com or through other channels.
Okay.
To learn more about some of the programs that we're aware of in our region. Sorry, and one thing I forgot to mention is that a number of years ago, Metrolinx had developed some content for sort of if I can call it kind of like a template for travel training. And so which we've posted on the Metrolinx website, and which we know that a number of agencies, not only in our region, but actually in other parts of the country, and I think even a couple of places in the US, have looked at as they develop their own travel training programs. So we know that there was some interest a number of years back from different transit agencies in developing their own travel training programs. And so we developed some template materials, which we make available to any agencies who are interested, and they can customize those materials and to create their own travel training program. Okay,
thank you for that, Jeff. Just moving sideways here a bit, and I think this question relates to Go and LRT transit, but the question is there any type of low sensory type of environment where individuals can wait for transit? Do you provide that type of a facility anywhere in your facilities?
So I can maybe start out, and others on the panel might have some other thoughts to share as well. Jeff, here again. So although we don't necessarily have maybe sort of intentional or specific low sensory type environments to wait for transit, certainly some transit environments can be perhaps a bit overwhelming or confusing for some individuals. I think we would aim to provide various environments for customers. I mean, if it's in a station area, there's different locations where a customer might perhaps be able to wait. On vehicles, I think that's something that maybe I'll point to more so, because I think that's something where they wanted to bring to people's attention that on GO trains, there's a quiet zone that's offered that provides more of a low sensory type of environment for others, for individuals who may provide sort of prefer more of a quiet environment as they're traveling on transit. And in general, I mean, we encourage customers to be respectful of one another as they're traveling, and I think our staff encourage just that customers are treating individuals respectfully as we're traveling, and also through sort of outreach campaigns that we've done in the past as well. I think it would, and it's not something that we have the opportunity to ask for right now, but I think it would be great to be able to speak with the individual who provided this comment to, if they have experienced any environments in other transit systems that they would like to mention as good examples. So maybe that's something, if they're able to provide some follow-up comments to us, just to better understand some examples that they can share of these kind of low sensory type environments. Not sure if anybody else on the panel wants to add anything.
And for that person, if you want to contact the Metrolinx staff, you can use the accessibility@metrolinx.com email address, or at the top right-hand side of your screen, the screen you're on right now, is a green Contact Us button, and you can simply go and leave a message and your coordinates there, and that will go privately to the Metrolinx accessibility team. So there's another question here about GO Train ambassadors. Since they are being slowly moved out of the ticket booths and asked to patrol the general area, are there specified spots where GO Train ambassadors are accessible? So if I needed to talk to an ambassador, where would I find them now?
This is a great question. This is Joanna speaking. Indeed, this is some of the things that as we roll out the new service model at Metrolinx, we are looking into understanding what are the gaps and ensuring that the level of customer experience is maintained. So for now, customers while at the station can contact our contact center Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. To 7 p.m. and weekends and holidays from 9 to 5 p.m. This is an emergency. The intercoms that are available at different locations within the stations are always available to contact staff and provide assistance, the right assistance when it's needed. We are also considering in the future how these intercoms can in the future provide additional services. So for example, in addition to addressing safety concerns, being able to address informational questions, more of the questions that an ambassador, when a station is not staffed, could answer to customers in real time.
Thank you for that, Joanna. We're going to do 2 more questions from the written questions, and then we'll go over to Caitlin in the Zoom room. So next question is, are there systems in place that would make both the website and travel information on transit more accessible? For example, immersive reader for the website and large noticeable signs on trains, bus stops, and stations.
So it's Jeff here. I can start out. So the Metrolinx websites must comply with international web accessibility standards. So it's called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And so there's continuous improvements that are being made to websites at Metrolinx. In addition to sort of the desktop option, mobile websites provide information for customers as they're traveling, and so that allows for customers to access service information amongst other things via a mobile device, a smartphone, for example, while they're traveling. With regard to signage, so the on our vehicles, so in trains and buses, on our trains we have the digital next stop information that's provided on our accessible rail cars, and that information is provided in a high contrast format for improved legibility. Same thing is provided on all of our buses. There's the digital next stop information provided there. There's digital signage improvements that are being made in our stations and terminals. So both in terms of rolling out new digital signage, but also for older digital signage that's been in place for a long time, where maybe it's lower resolution, older technology. Those signs are being replaced over time with newer, brighter, more legible signs, which will improve access to the information. And as we make improvements to our stations, and especially as we're building new stations, we want to ensure that information is provided at different levels. So, for example, there's eye-level digital signage that's being rolled out at stations to ensure that individuals can access the information from different heights as well. Just to be easier to read for people who are maybe traveling in a mobility aid or people with low vision. I'm not sure if, and I guess I'll just mention on the static signage side, Metrolinx has a wayfinding design standard, and which incorporated input into from transit agencies from across the region to essentially improve consistency in the wayfinding experience. Because if one is traveling on one transit agency versus another, the information can be conveyed in different ways. So the aim was to provide a more consistent wayfinding experience through so consistency of information that's provided on the on the signage. So that is being rolled out at you know, so for example, at Union Station, the new signage has been implemented in areas of Union Station, and we have heard anecdotally, we've heard some positive feedback from customers about the improved information. That we've heard that customers find the information easier to, it's more legible, it's clearer, and sort of, you know, using high contrast and you know, straightforward language. And yeah, so I think I'll perhaps leave it there, and I'm not sure if anybody else on the panel wants to add anything.
That is very complete. Thank you, Jeff. Final question before we go to the Zoom room. Are staff required to undergo crisis intervention training that is specified towards those with sensory or developmental disorders? Do you have training for that to help staff deal with people who have those requirements?
So it's Jeff here again. So there are some different training modules or programs that have been rolled out to staff. I think when it comes to more sort of more generally on sort of a crisis intervention perspective, Metrolinx staff have recently gone through mental health training to better understand some of the challenges that whether it be for employees or for customers, just better understanding some of the challenges that people may face on a day-to-day basis. I think when it comes to targeted to specific populations, whether it's individuals with sensory or developmental disabilities, there may not be specific content on that front, but it's certainly something that we can take back to look into further.
Okay, thank you. That covered a lot of ground. Now, I know there are people with their hand up in the Zoom room, so let's go over there. Caitlin Doherty, can you take it from here?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joseph. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here tonight. We have a few questioners here in the Zoom room. First up, we have Adam. And Adam, you can go ahead and ask your question. You are unmuted.
Okay. Hey there, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay. My question is, I've been in contact with Judge, that's the guy's name, and first I got the accessible washroom handled at the Whitby GO station, and they told me it would be April, that it would be, because it's a lot of progress that they have to do. So I got that handled. I said that it should be the first priority, accessible. So when I came back the next day, it was accessible buttons at the Whitby GO station for the washrooms. Now, the bus shelters outside do not have the accessible buttons, and I've been told that it has to do with I guess budgeting or process, but I see a lot of people in wheelchairs struggling to open up the door at the Whitby GO station and the bus shelters because there's no buttons and some of them don't have the strength. And I've been in contact with the city council from Durham, and they're on an accessible advisory committee, and I even tried telling it to the ticket booth people, and they're like, your best thing is to ask Metrolinx. They don't listen to us. So I'm reaching out to you, and accessible buttons need to be a first priority. And that's why I'm here tonight.
Hi, Adam. Thank you. This is Joanna. Thank you for bringing your concerns to our attention. Indeed, your concern It was brought to us back in December, and in regards to door openers at the washrooms in Whitby. And since door openers have been implemented in the last month, in addition to putting the door openers, we also have increased the width of the doors to ensure that accommodates more than 90 percentile of mobility aid users. On regards to door openers at shelters, it is a concern that we are aware. There are different programs that we are putting in place across Metrolinx to improve the existing infrastructure, and that includes improvements such as door openers. I cannot give you right now timelines when those improvements are going to come to Whitby in a specific, but there are improvements coming to the site, and it will include perhaps new shelters that it should comply with our current universal design standards. That of course shelters have to also be made accessible for persons with mobility aids, and it should include door openers.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next up in the Zoom room, we have a two-part question from Louise. And I'm going to read the question out on Louise's behalf. Louise's question is about safety on buses. She's been on the bus between Peterborough and Oshawa when the students are carrying loads of luggage. There's no space to store it, so sometimes it's left in the middle of the floor. It slides around, especially with heavy braking. Is it possible to create a cargo space for luggage? And the second part to the question is in regards to tie downs. The last time that Louise was on the bus, a double-decker, the tie downs were not tight enough and she kept sliding. How can a person get their wheelchair tied down tighter so that they don't feel the dizziness of sliding around? As a note, apparently some people refuse tie downs, so some drivers take exception to even being asked to fix the straps. Thank you.
It's Jeff Short here. I was typing out some notes, so I captured some of the main points from the questions. So I guess in terms of safety on buses, I think the first question or comment was around luggage that may not be properly secured. I think it's definitely something that can be explored through future GoBus procurements, and in fact, later in 2022, there will be some research that's taking place. Basically, we have some new electric buses that are being tested by Metrolinx for GoBus service, and so essentially, it's a electric double-decker low-floor bus. So there's going to be some testing taking place. And there will be different types of research that will take place to gather input from customers, and there will be some dedicated research that will focus on the needs of customers with disabilities. So I think that's something that certainly could be raised as part of that. I think the challenges, of course, with a low-floor bus are the limited opportunities for stowing luggage on our high-floor double-decker buses. Although there's some, generally we've received input from customers that there are some challenges from a customer experience perspective to the high-floor buses. those did have dedicated luggage spaces underneath the seating areas and kind of a separate stowed section. But with the low floor buses, there's much more limited opportunities to stow luggage, because the intent, I think, is generally to maximize the usable space within the vehicle for seating and other amenities. But certainly, as I was mentioning, I think with the research that will be taking place, that's something that I think can be explored and brought up to see if there might be opportunities for perhaps for dedicated luggage areas, or perhaps flexible spaces that can be used in different ways. With regard to tie downs, I think certainly there may be times when drivers may need to undergo refresher training if they haven't operated tie downs within over a certain period of time, and so refresher training may be needed to ensure that they're securing a customer's wheel mobility aid as safely and properly as possible. So if there are any situations where a customer might experience that any challenges they're facing where maybe they don't feel like they're being secured properly, if it's something that customer notices before, and it may be difficult to know before the vehicle starts to operate, but certainly if they notice it at any point during their travel, if there's opportunities to raise that either with the driver, and if they're experiencing any challenges with drivers, we do encourage customers to reach out to our contact center to provide any input on experiences they might have, especially if they feel like they haven't had an optimal customer experience. And again, if there are specific trips where a customer might have had a challenging experience and maybe not an optimal interaction with a driver, that providing specific trip information is really helpful, so that we can investigate further and look at opportunities for refresher training for drivers, and seek opportunities for perhaps to improve training as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up in the Zoom room, we have David. David, you can go ahead and ask your question. You are unmuted.
Hello?
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, David.
Thanks. Okay, no worries. This question has to do with where people can purchase or load Presto cards. So it's an access issue in a way. And I know there was a lot of advocacy done with Metrolinx in previous months around folks who may need to purchase or load their cards, having to go to a Shoppers Drug Mart. I understand that Loblaws is another place you can purchase them in the community. And in a lot of neighborhoods where folks with disabilities live, a lot of particularly low-income neighborhoods, there aren't Shoppers Drug Marts. There are very limited options for actually loading their cards in their communities. So I'm wondering what's been done around that access issue, and if there's going to be some sort of expanding of commercial stores where people can actually load their cards.
Hi, it's Marcella here. Thank you for your question. That is a great question. So as you mentioned, we do have Shopper Drug Marts and Loblaws currently selling Presto cards, as well as customer service outlets. We are working to increase the reach out of those outlets, because we do understand the difficulty for some individuals to find a Shoppers or a Loblaws or go directly to a station. So we are working on that. Regarding the loading of your card, as I mentioned earlier today, the Presto app, for instance, now has the option of you loading your card from your phone if you have a phone that has an NFC feature. You can use your Presto account to load your card instantly. You can also do it from the website. However, this may take a little bit of a longer time to do so, or use any of the devices at the stations that currently have accessibility features, including audio mode for individuals that are blind.
Thanks, Marcel. I'll also just add, there is another, back to the purchasing options. We also have a purchase a card by mail option. So if you go on the website and choose to purchase a card that way, it can be delivered directly to your home address with your load, right? You know, already you've purchased already on the card. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, for our last question in the Zoom room, we have Elaine. Elaine, you are unmuted. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Great, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to the Eglinton Crosstown LRT opening up. I'm already getting choked up, sorry. I do have decreasing mobility issues. It's a degenerative disease. I can't get onto the new streetcars. I don't use a wheelchair, I don't use a walker. I'm still trying to use my legs, but I can only get on the front door of the new streetcars because I need to use both hand poles to pull myself up that one step. If the new crosstown is the same way, I don't think I can get on it. Did I sort of make myself clear or not?
It's Jeff Short here. So thank you for your comment and question.
The doors, the other doors are double width, so I can't reach both sides. So only the front door is a single width, allowing me to get on. Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, so is the single width doors, pardon me?
I can grab
had a cough there. Were you indicating that the single width doors work better for you?
Absolutely, because I can reach both sides.
Yeah, okay. So to my understanding with new light rail vehicles, so these would be for the new light rail transit lines. So these are a separate type of vehicle, a different type of vehicle that then is used, for example, for the new streetcars in Toronto. So they do include both a combination of both single doors and double doors, or narrower and wider doors. So there are different options available at different locations. With the Eglinton Crosstown in particular, the vehicles will be coupled. So basically there's kind of individual modules of the vehicle, and they're going to be coupled because we anticipate the ridership will be pretty high. It's pretty high usage bus service right now, and we're anticipating fairly high ridership over time. So the vehicles will be coupled, which means that there will be a wider variety of options in terms of there will be more of both the single and double width doors available. And I think that will be a benefit to different types of customers. So you've indicated that the single width doors are easier to use for you, and others might find that the double width doors will work better for them. So I think that will be really helpful. For all LRT lines, there will be a level boarding experience. So that's, I think, one of the big differences. Let's say with the streetcar services, because they're operating within an existing network, oftentimes there are stops that are, let's say, on a street, for example. So there's a requirement to kind of deploy a ramp onto the road. So because this is new infrastructure for the light rail transit lines, that all of the stops and stations will, it's kind of dedicated infrastructure. So there will be a level boarding experience, which will allow for easier boarding and disembarking from the vehicles. And also I'll mention, although you didn't bring up Finch West LRT, because it's also in Toronto, I do want to mention, although it's a different type of vehicle than what's going to be operated on the Eglinton Crosstown, it will also offer similar opportunity in terms of that there will be different door widths. So that should accommodate different types of customers as they're boarding and disembarking from the vehicle. Hope that If that answers your question.
All right. Well, I think that Caitlin has just indicated that those are all the questions we had in the Zoom room. But we have 5 minutes left, and we actually have a couple written questions. So let's see whether we can get those in and get all of the questions answered. So the first question is about support person designation, the support person assistance card. And there's a comment that it would be great if you could make information about this easier to find on the website. More general information is needed about this. And then 2 specific questions. How long does the support person sticker last? Is it transferable? If another person helps the individual, do you need to get a new sticker every trip? So is this something that goes on for a long time? Is it transferable?
So it's Jeff here. I can take this one. So firstly, thanks for the suggestion. I think while there is information about traveling with a support person on our GoTransit and UpExpress websites, that's a great suggestion. I think we can probably provide additional information about how one would go about accessing a support person sticker. So I did want to clarify that it's not a card, but rather a sticker that's currently available. So essentially, just to provide a little bit of context, essentially if a customer required traveling with a support person, that they would travel to a staffed location, and they can obtain a support person sticker that they would attach to their Presto card, if they have a Presto card. And so then that would, it would allow them to travel, regardless of the trip they're making, because it's on their Presto card. They wouldn't need to, they can use it at, for any trip. So it's not as if you would have to replace it. If the sticker wore out, if it peeled off or something, you might have to get a new sticker, but certainly you can continue to use that as long as the sticker continues to adhere to the Presto card. There is also for those who may not have a Presto card, currently there is still essentially a support person ticket, paper ticket that customers can also obtain at staff locations. So that is another avenue in case somebody does not have a Presto card. And in that case, my understanding is that those would be provided on sort of a trip-by-trip basis. So, for somebody who might find it more convenient to not have to obtain that on for each trip, the support person sticker, attaching it to a Presto card, probably would be the more convenient option for a customer. And I guess there was also, I'm not sure, Joseph, if you asked about mobile.
I didn't, but you could both ask and answer if you would like.
Okay.
I was just going to go there.
Okay. Yeah, so that's actually something that is still being explored, given that it's, currently it's a physical sticker that would be attached to a customer's card. That obviously is not something that would work for mobile. So certainly it's something that our staff are aware of, and we're exploring some different options in terms of how best to address the support person fare category when we're looking at sort of whether it's mobile ticketing, e-ticketing, some different options like that. So yeah, so that's something that is still being explored. We don't have anything more specific we can say right now, but it's definitely on our radar, and we're continuing to explore that.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not sure if did I address the sort of transferable? I think essentially with the, if a support person sticker is affixed to a customer's card, then that would be on the customer's card, but so it would remain with the individual, with that customer, and if they're not always traveling with the same support person, the customer would have the support person sticker on their card. So I think whoever would be traveling with them, it would with the sticker, it would identify that they require the assistance of a support person.
Thank you for that. We have two questions, both of them about station naming. So what I'd like to do so that we can get them is I'm going to combine them both, and perhaps you can respond to them both. So first off, the crosstown stop at Victoria Park being called O'Connor is the topic. And the questioner asks if you anticipate passenger confusion with the crosstown stop at Victoria Park being called O'Connor. It should be called Victoria Park O'Connor so as not to confuse it with Victoria Park subway station. If the crosstown train is similar to the new TTC streetcars, you can really access the driver to ask for clarification. Passenger confusion is time-consuming and frustrating for all. And let me, because I think it's following along the same line, talk about the Eglinton West name change. And there, the questioner says that even if Eglinton West is Cedarvale, I think it should be named as Eglinton Cedarvale or Eglinton West Cedarvale. That way, Line 1 will be Eglinton West and Line 5 will be Cedarvale. Eglinton can then be named Eglinton Young, which just goes, if you followed how quickly I read that, to the importance of the naming so that we can find our way around. Can you talk about those comments and station naming, please?
Yeah, so it's Jeff here again. So I did reach out because I know that was a comment. These were some comments posted in advance of the event to some colleagues to get some insight. And so I think I'll just do my best to summarize the comments I received back. And thank you for the suggestions. I think we always want to hear from customers in terms of ensuring that information, whether it's a station name or signage or whatever it may be, it's always helpful to understand. Are we conveying the information in as clear a way as we can, plain language, etc. So we always appreciate suggestions and feedback that customers have. So just to provide a bit of an explanation for the rationale for specifically for the Victoria Park O'Connor suggestion. So generally the approach that was taken to station naming discourages the repetition of the same words or names to the furthest extent possible. So with Victoria Park being an example, there's an existing subway station called Victoria Park Station. So there was a desire to pursue alternative options. So essentially, in addition to that, I think we also aim to reduce the repetition of words and also resist hyphenated names. So there's a couple of reasons for this. Hyphenated names, as an example, are often shortened when spoken verbally. So that can perpetuate possible confusion that could arise from duplicate names. And also when repeating names, it can also be difficult for example, for newcomers to know which is which. Let's say if somebody was using a search engine to determine which station they wanted to use as part of their trip planning. If there's duplication of names across the transit network, it may be challenging for somebody to know which station they actually want to use. And I think going back to the sort of hyphenated, again, sometimes those names are abbreviated, so that could also further the confusion if elements of the name were removed. So let's say for Victoria Park being an example, Victoria Park O'Connor, if somebody just referred to it as Victoria Park, but they're on Eglinton, if they're doing a search or communicating with in the future when the service is being operated, it could be confusing for somebody trying to provide some sort of customer service for them over the phone, for example. And I think also specifically for O'Connor, it was selected apparently partly due to some suggestions from elected officials in terms of where the ward is located. I think we try to get input from a wide range of stakeholders, and take into consideration feedback provided by many people. So I think O'Connor, being that it was an intersecting street, there was much input that was provided, and it was determined that O'Connor would in our opinion would provide clarity in terms of not duplicating information that's shared in station naming for other transit lines. And I think the same type of logic would apply for the Eglinton West extension. Joseph, as you were indicating, I mean, there's a lot of Eglintons that are currently that would be provided through Yonge and Eglinton Station. That's part of the existing line. I guess it's just referred to as Eglinton. And then there's the Eglinton West Station. That's also part of the existing Line 1 subway network. So again, I think following the logic of the station naming, reducing repetition of words, as well as try not to use hyphenated names. There's the reason for that's the reason for going with Cedarvale specifically and for that station.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our questions. Now, this is not the end of the process, and for everyone who has participated tonight, there is a green button at the top of the screen that says Annual Accessibility Public Consultation. If you go there, you'll find information on all of the issues. You'll find the opportunity to answer questions, to provide input. This is an annual accessibility consultation run by Metrolinx. Accessibility is never done, never finished. We always need to do better and do more. So it's timely for you to provide your input. To Caitlin and all the people who participated in the Zoom room, thank you. Those were great questions. To the panelists, to the ASL interpreters, to our closed captioner, thank you, everybody. This was a session with a lot of information. I think everybody really showed that you care on the panel and gave great responses. I hope to everybody who participated tonight that you found that this was worthwhile. If you need, you can go to the Contact Us button and you can contact the team after the meeting. If you want to talk to them about any of the specific issues, it's not over. This is an ongoing thing. So please feel free to continue to participate with this team. Thank you for coming out tonight. Please stay safe.